Hello, everyone, and welcome to the micro lecture on knowledge remediation. Knowledge remediation is an interesting topic, and let me tell you why. It addresses things such as how do we correct and effectively correct an individual when they're in a clinical setting, and this can be quite challenging, and especially if we're looking at simulation. And I'm like thinking about some of the projects that we've been going through. So when we think about knowledge remediation, I want you to kind of think about what are some of the elements that you think would be needed in order to address or assess gaps in knowledge, right? Change in methods, how you teach the old material to a brand new way. I'm thinking this plays its fact onto universal design. Sorry, I drew a blank there. And how do we build that mastery piece of it? So think about your work training program. Think about your subject that you're teaching. Think about the specific topic that you need folks to be, or students to be able to apply in a setting that requires the skill. Okay, that's one thing I want you to think about. And we think about remediation, we think about intervention, we think about, I keep drawing a blank, sorry folks. Again, what we think about with regards to learning remediation. And when we think about it, I probably should skip the slides. Here we go. Covering everything. Okay, here we go. Sorry. It's morning. So we think about at its core, remediation is simply the reteaching piece of it. It's, as we see here from Article 2, that's what we've got looking at, is the act of facilitating a correction for trainees who started out on a journey toward becoming a physician or an SLP or a clinical psychologist or a PA or an OT or a PT. I'm hoping you're seeing this, seeing the pattern here. And it's often, as an educator, we will discover that kind of like that summative and formative assessment within that population, right? And then once you determine what the gaps are, then you can go, okay, how do we change the material? I do this all the time. That's one reason why I ask folks, can you take a look at this? How do I make the change? How do I help you in your learning? And that's ultimately, as educators, we need to do. We need to, one, know when it's appropriate to change, know what it is, and how do we take care of it and connect it to our knowledge systems and our standards, and how do we get the students to be motivated a little bit more? Okay, so what are some of the do's and don'ts? So the do's and don'ts of remediation are actually quite simple. Okay, when we think about again, remediation and what we do for remediation, we have to think about the educational activity in itself. Okay, what was effective? Think about that first, and what you need to keep that effectiveness within that assignment. All right, and then think about what parts weren't so effective. What parts cause that muddy point within the assignment for the student, or for the task for the student, or what was challenging for the group of students that they didn't quite understand where you were going with it. And then you have that don't know. And sometimes you just don't know, right? You may have the do's and the don'ts, and then maybe you just kind of like shrug your shoulders. There's no evidence of the effectiveness, and getting that feedback is often where we need to go with it. So I want you to kind of think about the do, don'ts, and don't knows. I often throw myself into the don't knows, and then I reach out and say, what did we do great? And what do we need to change to be more effective in the learning process? So with that said, I want you to kind of take a peek at this article, Unheard Voices, a qualitative study on resident perspectives on remediation. It's relatively old, but take a peek at it. You don't have to take a super deep dive in it, but I want you to think about looking at the perspectives. Really look at the results and find out the what and the why and the how. Basically the do's, the don'ts, and the don't knows. Okay. I think that this article will open your eyes to a couple of things. That's a micro lecture for you right there. It's more reading this week and working on your final project or final presentation. So let's have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon, folks. Hang in there. One more week to go.